One, two, one, two. All right, let's roll.
Welcome.
You're listening to the Saddle Up Podcast,
where we discuss everything related to UTRGV athletics, past or present. We'll catch up with old teammates, friends, and take you down memory lane.
with exclusive interviews.
This is the Saddle Up Podcast.
The voice of your covered walkway streets. So dope.
This is gonna be awesome.
Stay tuned for new episodes every week.
From Bronx Village to the Fieldhouse, we'll cover it all.
Hell yeah, dude. Carpe diem.
So saddle up and let's go.
Saddle up, partner.
You know the time, it's Friday, new show, and today we have the incredible pleasure of having one of my best friends, or one of our best friends, on the show. He finally blessed us with his presence after standing us up like 6 times, right? Rios for Trios. Adios mios. Lalo Rios is on the podcast. Welcome, Lalo. Thank you so much for joining the show. Finally, your presence is welcome. Thank you so much, Lalo.
Thank you guys for having me, man. I do apologize, man. I've just been really busy and it's been very difficult. You guys always just kind of catch me at the wrong time, and it's been tough. And luckily this week I have spring break, so it made it a whole lot easier to be out here with you guys. And I do apologize, man. I know we've been trying to make this happen, but I'm glad that we finally got the opportunity.
You got a lot going, man. You got a lot going. And we know you're really busy, so we really appreciate this time you've given us. And no need for apologies, man. You're a busy guy.
Yeah.
Tell us about what you're doing. Like, what are you doing now? I know we're gonna go back to the Pan Am days, and of course, you know, you're one of the legends here in the Valley, man, basketball wise. But what are you doing right now that's making me so keeping us?
Let me ask you this, Lalo, real quick. Did you know you're almost like a god figure in the Valley, right? Is that why you named your new business Dalai Lama? Like, I just
Tell us about that.
Yeah, tell us about Dalai Lama.
It's actually not my business. It's more my wife and her partner. Obviously, you know, both our spouses are involved in it as well, but more from just kind of the support and the financial and just all the other deals. But my wife and her partner, you know, just decided one day we all had dinner, and she decided that, or they'd been talking, they just kind of wanted to do something different and you know, kind of have an outlet, a plan B, in case, you know, things weren't working out in their current, you know, position. And so, you know, we researched and found some franchises, and one of them was the Dalai Lama. And the name kind of struck us as odd, you know. So as we did the research into it, we found out it was a dessert shop, and it was more of a waffle and ice cream dessert shop. So we thought that was kind of different. You know, you don't see that too much here in the Valley. And so we contacted the owners, and we got as much as information as we possibly could. And my wife and them were pretty excited about it. So they flew out to California. The business is in California. And
Shout out to Cali.
Yeah, shout out to Cali. So my wife and her partner flew out there. They met the owners. They really liked the product. They really liked the people that ran the business. And so it started there. We just decided to move forward with it. And so, yeah, the process took about a whole year to get it going, but, you know, a couple of weeks ago they did open up. So it's been kind of a whirlwind, you know, 2 weeks to kind of just make sure everything's squared away. And, you know, obviously there's a lot of traction right now. And so, you know, we're kind of having to help whenever we have to, or I have to help. And so does, you know, my partner's spouse. You know, we all try to help whenever we can, in an hour or two, or, you know, whatever it is, go clean.
Yeah.
Go buy things. And so it's been fun. You know, I'm really happy for my wife and her partner. They're really enjoying it. You know, we like, you know, to thank all the people here in the Valley who've made their way out there and supported, you know, this venture. You know, we're hoping to expand. You know, that's the goal, is not just to open up one shop, but we know we do have you know, the rights to open up 4. So that's kind of what we're looking to do.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lalo, can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
So we went over. My son finished playing at a Viper tournament. You know, they were really excited, man. They did well. They were, you know, really wanting some ice cream, waffles and stuff, you know, dessert. So we went by and the line was from like the door all the way to Alana, you know? So kudos, man. I mean, congratulations, dude. We couldn't get in for about 2 hours, but here, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
For the guys like us, you know, that know you pretty well, do we have a VIP entrance?
We're working on it, man. Right now, we're just trying to keep our head above water. I ain't gonna lie, it's been chaotic. This kind of obviously it's a spring break, but I've been having to help her out a little bit because some of the workers, it's their kids and they
Yeah.
want to go and spend some time at the island and party a little bit, and we get that. So we're having to kind of just go and fill in and help out as much as possible. But it's been tough, man. I ain't gonna lie. We didn't
Gee.
expect this much kind of traction.
Gee,
Yeah.
you're definitely not Ray Liotta, and this isn't Goodfellas. You're not coming through the back of the kitchen. Like you can't.
That's what I was thinking. I was gonna have kind of like special entrance, and I just got
we might have to
man.
come up with something like that, man. 'Cause
What's the GC it? Like GC it. You're working on it, Lalo. GC it.
you see it, I'm working on it, man. Let me just get my head above water a little bit longer because it's been crazy packed. I ain't gonna lie, man. Yesterday we had, people were waiting for about an hour and a half.
That's
just to
awesome.
get an ice cream. So, again, shout out to the people in the Valley, man, for coming out and being patient with us. Obviously, we're ironing out kinks. We're realizing that we need to hire more people because we didn't think it was going to be this big of a hit. So, I do appreciate, all the people that have come by and been very patient with us and understanding that, that we're trying to get it right, but we will at some point in time.
Well, let's kind of pivot a little bit, like because
Yep.
talking about waffles and ice cream is making G hungry, and we'll get to his weekly question for all our guests, right? But I guess let's talk about the young Lalo, right?
Yeah.
And we're kind of barred by time, but tell us what it was like being Lalo Rios as a junior high school kid, having aspiration. Did you always have aspirations of playing collegiately, or is that just something you just kind of fell into, or what? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was tough. Obviously my dad was a coach here in the Edinburgh area, for many years at the time. And I guess growing up at junior high, we played all sports, right? That was kind of the thing. You went from sport to sport to sport, but I remember vividly going to my freshman year and having this conversation with my dad. And he was like, hey, listen, if you want to play at the next level, you really need to make a decision here and now on what sport it is you want to do it in, and recognize that if you're going to do it, you need to put all your eggs in that basket and work your tail off to be the very best so that you can achieve that goal playing at the next level. And his kind of message was, hey, pick your sport and be the best at it. That was his message in an indirect way, right? And I, luckily for me, I had that upbringing, and I had that knowledge from my father being a coach and recognizing that very few kids go and play 2 or 3 sports at the next level or anything of that nature. It's usually you play one and you do everything you can to get to that level. So with that said, I decided to just say, I'm going to focus on basketball and I'm going to be the best at it, and hope that I do get to the next level. And that's where it all started. Once I made that decision, it was full speed ahead. My eyes were on the prize, and every day was an opportunity for me to get to be the best, to get to that level. So that was kind of, again, I'm very fortunate that I had a father who was a coach and who kind of knew a little bit about my future, right? And how that would play itself out. Mm-hmm. So, I think that was, there was a lot of pressure, not necessarily from my parents, but it was a lot of pressure on myself because, I knew, obviously I had 4 brothers and sisters, right? So we're a family of 5, we didn't have a lot. We didn't have much, to be honest. My parents were both educators and, very modest, humble upbringing.
Shout out to the Rioses. They coach. Yeah.
Parents they worked their tail off to provide for us. But I also know that they sacrificed a lot for us. Right. And so my goal, seeing the struggle that they went through on a daily basis, my goal was to make sure that I made their lives a little bit easier when we got to college, or if I did get to college, right? My goal was to try to get a scholarship so that they wouldn't have to pay for my education, because I knew it was going to be tough. And so that was kind of my motivating factor every day, day in, day out. It was like, man, I got to do this. I got to either do it academically or athletically, but I don't want to burden them when I graduate. I want to be less of a burden and to not make their lives more difficult than it already was at the time.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the focus.
So was Pan Am your only choice? Like we kind of all know the story, right? But was Pan Am like you were an all-star in Texas, right? You played in that TABC All-Star game?
Yeah, I
What-
played in
yeah.
that one. I played in the McDonald's All-Star game in the Texas
Yeah.
area, right in the state of Texas. And no, I did have a couple of offers. I did. I had one from Incarnate Ward University, and then obviously Pan Am wasn't looking at me, but Pan Am was saying, okay, you know what, you can come over here and be a walk-on. And okay, great, not a problem. Actually, Brian Molina was a dear friend of mine. Obviously, we competed against each other in high school, and he was at a JUCO in Kansas, and he was trying to recruit me because he was leaving that JUCO to come back down, and they were looking for another shooter, which Brian was a hell of a shooter. So they were looking for somebody else to kind of fill that void that Brian was leaving. So Brian tried to recruit me to that junior college. But I was just, I'm a homebody, and I'm a Valley guy, born and raised, and I love the Valley with all my heart, and the opportunity to even just walk on at Pan Am was just too hard for me to pass up. And my freshman year, even though it was a walk-on status, I had an academic scholarship, right, which was going to pay for all my school for that first year. So I said, okay, you know what, this is still helping my parents, because they don't have to pay for any of my freshman year of school. And now it's up to me to go up there as a freshman and prove to myself, or prove to them,
To earn
that
it.
I can play and earn it, and then hopefully get a scholarship my sophomore, junior, senior year. And again, fulfill that promise of my parents not having to pay for school.
Wow. That's killer. That's
Yeah.
killer.
We totally understand the motivation now, because we were there firsthand, man.
Yeah, we
Yep.
saw it. I mean, we were there day in and day out, but for you to tell everybody else, it's and to hear it, right? And the one thing that I took away from that was because I played with all three of y'all, right? You and G and Brian, and all three of y'all were shooters, but y'all definitely weren't passers. And so, it was me grabbing the rebound, throwing it to you guys, and then y'all pulling up like Steph Curry before there was Steph Curry, right? Those men's leagues. Like, I would be so mad at you guys.
At least you understood your role.
You did a good job rebounding, though. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Well, it's because and I've said this before, and this is why I should have a statue outside of the new arena, right? Is because I led the NCAA in fouls because you couldn't play defense, Lalo. Like,
that's for sure. You did. You were great at fouling.
Hey, I don't think that's right, Lalo. I don't think it's that he couldn't play defense. I think the whole idea was why does he have to play defense when you can train him too? Come on.
Well, here's the thing. Lalo led the Sun Belt at one point in like steals, and so he was always gambling. That you make that sound, you miss it. The guy gets the ball and he goes right by Lalo, and then I got a foul, right? I know, I've seen it. So yeah.
So talking about, I don't want to talk about fouls anymore, Matt. I mean, that's I think, I just think you should have gone full instead of dropping your hands and fouling. I think you could.
There you go.
But talk about the Sun Belt. Just talk to us about how that experience was, man, playing for that conference, and maybe what your favorite game, favorite player you played against. Just talk to us about that experience, man.
Man, and again, it's very different for me because you got to understand, coming out of high school, here at Edinburgh in the Valley, tallest guy we probably ever saw, G, you can attest to this, was maybe 6'2", 6'3" at most, right?
Yeah.
And it's always good to go to college and redshirt a year, sit out a year, go to JUCO, to kind of get your feet wet, and then maybe hopefully have the hopes of going to Division I. But I kind of was. It was an anomaly for me because I went to Pan Am in the hopes that I was going to redshirt and sit my freshman year. But Coach Adams at the time, had brought in a lot of JUCO guards who weren't cutting it out. They weren't doing, I guess, what he had recruited them to do. And he was, I guess, getting frustrated with the guys. And so he was like, 2 weeks into practice, he was like, hey, I want you to play. And I was like, Coach, I'm not ready. Like I know I'm not ready. I played high school basketball in the Valley. It's different from going to that, playing against a bunch of 6'8", 6'9", and 6'7". And I didn't know if I was ready for that. And so he says, no, you know what, you're going to play. You know, I think you're ready. And okay, you know, when you're an 18-year-old freshman coming out of high school, you're definitely going to say, okay, you know, it's kind of hard to say no to your coach at the time. So, you know, it was a good experience for me, you know, those first non-conference games, but then going into Sunbelt, that was scary. I'm not gonna lie, as a freshman, you know, I was really nervous a lot, you know, but I also had a lot of confidence in my preparation and my abilities. And I knew that I was very fundamental. Like I wasn't going to do anything like too crazy. If coach told me to
Except
do
gamble.
except if coach told me to do something, I was going to do it. And I think that was my safe way of saying, you know what, I really can't get in trouble if coach tells me to go right and I go right.
Yeah.
But I think we had a lot of guys on the team that you guys will remember that if coach told them to go right, they went left. Or coach told them to pass, they'd shoot. Or coach told them to shoot, they'd pass. And I think that's where there was a lot of problems with some of those guys. And for me, I think he could trust the fact that I was going to do what he needed done.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think, you know, the Sun Belt was tough, but, you know, I know we didn't do too well, but it did help our freshman year that we did have some senior guys on the team, you know, some older guys like Raheem Muhammad and Linwood Bonner, Terrence, and Keelan Haney, and some of those older guys that really helped us out. That was a blessing. But yeah, I vividly remember probably, you know, some of the games that I recall. Mostly the one that I really recall was playing against Derek Fisher. You know, he was played at Arkansas Little Rock. He was a senior. I was a freshman. They were the #1 team in the conference. We were towards the bottom. And, you know, there was all this hype about him, and it was just great. That's something I'll never forget, was playing against him and the hype and him being #1 in their conference, and just him being a very smart, fundamental, disciplined point guard, and having to guard him and seeing how he worked, how hard he worked, and seeing, you know, like trying to outsmart him, trying to keep up with him, you know, because he was obviously 3 years older than I was, and he was just a really good point guard. So yeah, Sunbelt, man, I really enjoyed my time in the Sunbelt. It was great. It was obviously we didn't do as well probably as a team, but me, the experience from coming from high school in the Rio Grande Valley to playing in that conference, you know, with guys like Montrell Dobbins, who was like 6'9", 250, 260, who led the nation in rebounding. And it was just like, it was a monster. You know, I was scared of that guy because he was so big. I didn't want to get anywhere near him. You know, it's just some of those experiences you just can't forget, you know, even 30 years later, you know.
So who was the toughest player? I mean, obviously Derek Fisher, Montrell Dobbins is a monster. And yeah, I played against him too, but who was the guy, whether it be in conference or whether it be in practice on the daily, like who was the guy that you were like, dang, this is the best guy that I've ever played against?
I think I don't want to say the best guy, but I think the guy that I saw him a lot. And that's why I think I can't forget this guy. His name was Lonnie Cooper. He played at La Tech. He played at La Tech. And I say that because we both got there as freshmen. We both played as freshmen a lot. So we played each other freshman, sophomore, and junior year, right? And it was just a lot of playing against him that, man, I mean, you know, it's tough when you get to see your opponent so much. Most of these other guys, we play them one time and that was non-conference, and that was it. We played at Texas Tech or we played at Baylor, but we never saw the guys again, right? Lonnie Cooper at La Tech, and he was a 6'5" point guard.
Yeah, he was tall. He was tall. That was tall for being a point guard at the time. Yeah, you're exactly right. Lonnie was tough.
And I was 5'10". There's a big difference, right? So he was long. He would try to post me up. You know, I'm like 5'10" and a half. Okay, I'll just keep it at 5'10". But he was long, man, and he was hard to guard because he was lengthy. I couldn't get my shot off as easily on him because he was so tall. And like I said, he would post me up, and he had these long arms. So if I try to go by him, he'd stick that arm out and tap the ball away. So, you know, he always presented that challenge, right? Because of his length, height, and then because of the fact that we saw him for so many times, right? Every year was like, oh, here we go, Lonnie Cooper again. Here we go, Lonnie Cooper again. Here you go. You know what I mean? And so he's one of the guys that I'll never forget just because of we played him so many times.
What about the game that you'll never forget? Like, what is the game when, like, you got two boys and they come to you one day and they say, Dad, tell me about the best game or the most memorable game you played at Pan Am. What is that game?
Yeah, I know
'Cause
what
I've
you're
got a
alluding
couple of
to.
them,
I
but
know
what
what
is
you're
that game?
alluding to, and I knew you were going to hit me with this one. Obviously, man, probably the best game I played in was probably the worst game I played in. It's probably, one that I'll just never forget because of the magnitude of the game. And you guys were there, both of you guys. It was when we played Gonzaga at home,
Oh, we weren't even
senior
going to
year.
bring that up. We
Yeah.
told you we weren't going to bring it up, but since he opened that door,
Yeah.
I
And
thought,
perfect
Yeah.
way to like trap them in the corner there, Matt.
That
That's
was a
no,
nice
you
trap,
know,
man. That was a
honestly,
nice trap. I
no,
like that.
no.
and
Honestly, I
I
thought
wasn't trying
because
to double team either, man. I was staying back. I wasn't
No.
trying to I
no,
was staying
GC it.
back to see if you could
No.
like if keep them in the corner and just keep them corralled, man. But you did. You
No,
did.
GC it. I honestly thought because you were talking about Lonnie Cooper,
Yeah.
right? I thought, and the game that always comes back to me is the time we only had 5 people.
Oh,
And I
That-
remember
that's true.
sitting, and that's the game I thought you were going to, I wasn't going to bring up the Gonzaga game, even though I give you shit about it all the time. But
Yeah.
like, I remember sitting there in the circle stretching, and Lonnie Cooper was on, we were kind of sitting next to each other. And he was like, damn, Matt, y'all only got 5 dudes. Like, it looked like we were just, and I was like, yeah, I said, but we're going to win. And he started laughing. And he was like, okay, because I'd played against Lonnie a couple times
Yeah.
also, right? And
Yeah.
so you have these stories, and tell us a little bit about what you remember from that game, because I could go off on what I remember, but yeah.
From which game? The Gonzaga or the other?
No, we won't talk about Gonzaga. We'll have you back and talk about that another show. But
Yeah, so that game was interesting because I remember that game vividly. It was after it was at the break of the semester, right? And grades had just come out, and so I remember showing up to practice or shoot around. We had pregame shoot around that morning, and so I show up to the gym and nobody's in the gym, and I was kind of like, "Hey man, where's everybody at? We got shoot around here. We got a game tonight. Where's everybody at?"
yeah,
So I go back to the offices and I'm in there and everybody's in there. And we have a lot of freshmen that year, right? Obviously, I was a senior, you were a junior, but we had a lot of freshmen. Coach Brooks had recruited a lot of freshmen that year. So we go back and everybody's in there. Everybody's panicking. Everybody's on the phone. Everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. And so I asked, like, what happened? And they were like, man, half the team failed. I said, what do you mean they failed? They're like, yeah, all these freshmen failed. I said, oh my Lord. So I said, what's going to happen? I said, who's eligible? They were like, well, we only got 5 dudes. I said, oh my God. And so, and we had one guy, Charles Baker, who had just hurt his foot the day, like that week before or something. So he was like,
he was in a boot.
Yeah, he was in a boot, right? He had to shoot up in a boot, right? Just so we could have 6. But coach is like, hey man, we gotta go up. Let's go. Nothing we can do about it. We gotta go game plan. Let's go to practice. So we did with 5 guys and we figured it out. And I remember we had just gotten Kirby Lemons back that day. That day. So it was me, Matt, John Braxton, Brian Merriweather, and Kirby Lemons, and Charles Baker on the bench in a boot.
Fab Five. That's all.
Fab Five, baby. Fab Five.
So you're right, we were playing these guys, and I remember Matt, it was a good game. It wasn't like they were blowing us out. It was a good game all the way through. Obviously, Brian Merriweather and Kirby, they were very spectacular basketball players. They really carried us in that first half. And then Matt picks up his 4th foul
in the first half.
And we were really nervous. And that's because I think we were going zone most of the game. But, they were very good. They were athletic. They were long. And I just remember, us pulling Matt into the huddle at the free throw. He picked up his 4th and we pulled him into we huddled up at the free throw. And I said, hey, Matt, we got your back. Don't worry about it. We're going to make sure that you don't foul out. You let them go. We'll help you. We'll get your back. Don't worry about it. Just let people, if they shoot, don't worry about it. Don't stress out. We'll figure it out. And lo and behold, Matt does a hell of a job. He played smart. He didn't get into any foul troubles. He kept, and he didn't pick up another foul. And we go on to end up beating these guys in the last minute. Don't ask me. I mean, man, it was such a blur because I think everybody in that gym that night expected us to lose and probably end up playing with 4 players at some point in time. And we didn't. And big shout out to Brian Merriweather and Kirby, because I know that they were huge. I mean, obviously Brian was one of the top scorers in the nation at the time.
Mhm.
But it was that was a great game because of the situation of it, the
Yeah.
dramatic
It
situation
was
of,
just it was
five
just us
games.
banding together. Like it was kind of like us against the world type
Yeah.
feeling,
Yeah.
And so
And it was fun doing it at home,
and
in
it,
your
yeah.
home crowd, and that was cool. It was, it was right before Christmas time. I remember that was just like awesome. It was what a great Christmas present.
Yeah. And then we go off and we play Gonzaga when we come back.
Yep.
And then we go and play Baylor.
Yep.
And we
No,
were
we played-
favored
we
against
played-
Baylor.
We played Rice, and then we played Baylor, and we lost to Rice, and that's when. No, I'm sorry, you're right. We played Baylor first, and then we
Yeah.
went to Rice. Yeah, we
No,
played
then we went to
Baylor.
SMU.
Oh,
And
is
SMU is SMU is a whole nother story. We
That's
won't get into that, right? We
let's talk
won't
about
touch
that
on
one,
that. But
But we went
I
to Baylor.
remember losing to coming off that La Tech win, going to Christmas, play Gonzaga, had our
Lose
hearts
that.
broken.
Yep.
Then we go to Baylor. We're favored against Baylor,
Mhm.
and we lose, and we end up playing with only 4 players.
Correct.
And then we go to SMU, and we barely lose against Sasser, who was the point guard
Mhm.
there. So, like, our record wouldn't indicate it, but we were really, really competitive. And I think that La Tech game really kind of cemented, like,
Mhm.
okay, like we can band together and we can play with anybody. It doesn't matter who it is. And Gonzaga did that too, having competing with Gonzaga at the time. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think
well,
that was.
ask him, G. Ask him
Lalo,
what you want to ask him.
Well, this is just burning inside, man, and you can talk about the best game. You can talk about your best or worst game there, but I guarantee you, I remember your best practice. Your best practice was, and I think Matt would remember your best practice too. It was the day after New Year's Eve. It was probably a New Year's practice.
It's New Year's Day practice. I remember.
Everybody on the team went out except for Lalo Rios.
Yeah.
And Lalo Rios had the practice of his life.
He should be in the Hall of Fame at Pan Am because of this practice. Like,
because nobody else had life that day.
No, Jerron Allen's laying on the bench. Remember, like he just
At HPE2, we were at the HPE2, and I remember everybody was dying that day. I remember that. Yeah, I remember Coach was really, really upset.
Yeah, that's who you call cool. That's who you call cool.
Yeah, I remember, man.
I know that was one of my favorite memories. Everybody kind of went, hey, we went out as a team, but I know that you had your priorities, and we're not going to hold that against you. All right. And you probably, your dedication and commitment probably showed there, you not going out that New Year's Eve. But speaking of
they should probably do a 28 for 28 on that practice instead of a 30 for 30. It's 28 for 28. Yeah.
Fouls, 35 points and pickup, when we played 5-on-5. He had like 8 threes, run out 12 layups, uncontested. Nobody was around. Oh, it was great.
I remember, man, Coach was really upset, man, because he knew that all y'all went out, and I remember he vividly kept scheduled practice in the morning because he had heard that y'all were gonna. He knew it, man. He knew it, and he was like, "We're practicing early in the morning," and I was like, "Man, I ain't messing around with that. You know what? Man, there's no way I ain't got get Coach upset with me like that." So I remember you guys went out, man. The next day, man, I could see it all over y'all, man. Y'all were dying out there. I felt bad. There was nothing I could do, but I was like, man, these guys are hurting, man.
Yeah.
Mike, the best thing you did was bring Mama Rios tacos to practice.
Mike Mancias and Jim Lancaster earned their money that day. Like it was, they couldn't keep us. It was hilarious.
Let's piggyback that a little bit, man, and talk about your favorite memory. Like I know you talk about your favorite game and like outside basketball. What was your favorite memory as a Bronx?
Man, I had several, man, but probably my favorite memory that I'll probably never forget was my last home game. It was against IUPUI at home. We ended up winning that game. But, it was just, you know, the culmination
Yeah.
of 4 years of blood, sweat, and tears, right? All wrapped into one night. I remember, it was the pregame ceremony, walking out with my parents, my family, my grandma, who meant the world to me, because she was kind of the backbone of those 4 years of always
Mhm.
making us breakfast
Yo, my
tacos.
gosh, those
You know
those
what I
breakfast
mean?
tacos were
You know
amazing.
what I mean? And
Mhm.
my grandma really, she lived with us, at home. And so she always took care of me. She washed my clothes for practice, for games. I mean, she was just, a godsend. And so, that night was my way of saying thank you to them, for all the hours that they put into me growing up and molding me into be the person that I ended up being at the time. And like, I think that was, man, I remember leaving that court that day after the game, and I remember sitting in my locker, and not wanting to leave, man, because I remember how much I knew I was going to miss it. And I remember all those memories were coming back to me at the time,
Yeah.
and walking out onto the court, and, you know, everybody there, wanting to take a picture, just wanting to say thank you for the 4 years. And,
Mhm.
kids just coming up, and parents and people, fans, and just wanting to say thank you, and I know we didn't win a lot. You guys know that we didn't win a lot, but I think they respected the effort. I think they respected the passion that we brought to the court for those 4 years, that we were there. And I think that was my favorite memory because, a lot of people tell me like, man, why didn't you ever quit? Like, why didn't you give up? Like, man, y'all were not very good. And, and it was kind of like, people don't realize, yeah, I know we weren't as good, but it was, yeah, I was playing for a bigger purpose, right?
We
I
were
was,
competitive as hell though,
we
Lalo.
were,
Like,
we were, I agree. We didn't always get blown out. We were there in a lot of games, right?
mhm,
But at the end of the day, we didn't win as
of
much,
course.
correct? Right.
Yeah.
But we were good enough to compete and almost get there. We just couldn't get over the hump. But it was, I was playing for a bigger purpose. I was playing for, and at the time I would have conversations with mom and dad about, hey, you're representing a bigger thing here. You're representing a lot for the Hispanic culture here in the Valley, for all those young kids who don't think that what you're doing is possible. Like, you can't give up, because if you give up, then they're going
You
to
set a
think that
precedent. Yeah,
you
yeah.
got to, so I always looked at my time there as I'm trying to build something for the next person. I'm trying to leave something behind for the next person. Is that hope that, hey, if he did it, so can I. You
Yeah.
know, we're both the same color of skin. We're both not very tall. We're both not very athletic. We're both not very strong. But you know what? If I play as tough as he did, if I play as fundamental as he did, then you know what? I might have a chance. And that's
Yep.
what I think I was trying to strive every time I got on the court. Play as if it's your last, and give it everything you got, because somebody's watching. You know.
So got a new game. One word
Yeah.
answers. First thing
Okay.
that comes to your mind, right?
Shoot. Oh man. Okay.
Okay.
Pressure there.
Which Matt, before we play this game, let them kind of let them think about what that game's all about. But Lalo,
Yeah.
I want
Okay.
something, Matt, before we play that game. I just need to mention Matt, what you just said was awesome. Like,
Oh yeah.
being that inspiration, and kind of paving the way for everybody. And I just know somebody that's non-athletic, that was slow, wasn't a very good basketball player. His name is Eric Montalvo. And I know that you motivated him and inspired him to play at Pan American. Shout out to Eric. He'll probably
Shout out to Eric. He's gonna hear
a little
this.
bit later, man. Love you, Eric. Can't wait for you to be on the show. But anyway, man, I just needed to say
Yeah.
that off.
There you go. There
No,
you
but
go.
what you said, Lalo, is 1,000% correct. And I think what you've done, the legacy that you have left and built,
Yep.
is tremendous. And I'm really, I give you shit all the time and we text all the time, but I'm
Mhm.
really proud to call you my friend, because you and I went through so many battles together. You played with Brian, you played with G, but you and I were the most consistent. We
Yeah.
played 3 years together,
Correct.
and so there's you did it for Pan Am the right way. You did it for the Valley the right way. And you know, I'm really proud to call you my friend
No,
because
I
you did it
appreciate
the
that,
right
man.
way.
No, I appreciate that, man. And that's kind of, I think a lot of that
You never
goes.
did get a road win, but I'm just going to point that out.
That's true. We never did. But I think I think all that is a big testament to my parents, and my
Yeah.
grandma, because they were the ones that they kept me grounded. They kept me, to understand where I came from, the name that I was trying to represent, and in the community that I was trying to represent, right, which is the Rio Grande Valley, and more so Edinburgh. And so I always knew that I had to try to do it right for that purpose, right, for my family, for the Rio Grande Valley, and also for Edinburgh, right, and for just the kids in general, because I won't lie, and you all don't know this, but before me, and I'll say this, let's backtrack a little bit. I was that kid in the stands one day in 1980. I don't even remember what day it was, what year it was, but I remember my dad and I going to a basketball game at Pan Am when Gabe Valdez was playing against UNO, who had Irvin Johnson, not Magic Johnson, another Irvin Johnson.
Yeah, the big man, the center. Yeah.
Right. And I remember going to see him or them play, and that was my first collegiate basketball game. And I was like in junior high, maybe a little bit, or, somewhere around there, maybe, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, something like that. I was young. And I remember, first of all, seeing so many different colored people playing basketball. And I hadn't seen that before, right? Being in the Valley at the time, that all we saw were Hispanic people. And so I remember going to the game and seeing a bunch of white people and seeing a bunch of African-American people. And it was kind of a big shock to me.
Yeah.
But in that mix, I saw one Hispanic guy, and I saw him play, and I saw him do some great things that day. And I remember asking my dad, "Who's that guy?" And he said, "That's Gabe Valdez. He's from Westico, but I want you to watch him play, and I want you to see, look at what he's doing. Look at how smart he is. Look at how tough he is. And yet he had a, because he says, if he can do it, so can you."
Yeah.
If he can do it, because you're the same color skin as he is, you're not as tall, just like he, you're not gonna be very tall, just like he's not very tall, so you can play at this level if you want to, but you got to work. So I bet you that kid works his butt off, yada yada.
It's amazing that you tell that story, because we had Gabe on a couple of weeks ago, and he said the same thing about Chewy Guerra, and hearing the stories of Chewy play, and that inspired him, and then Art Castillo, and then you looking up to Gabe, and then guys like Eric looking up to you, so it's just one of those things, Ben Smith looking up to an Eric, that sort of, so
definitely
you should be really proud of the legacy you've left, right? So
appreciate that.
All right, so let's play the game.
Let's go.
One word answers. First thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Favorite place to eat when you were in college?
La Mexicana.
La Mexicana.
Yeah, great restaurant.
Favorite place to hang out when you were in college?
Brian's apartment.
Oh yeah.
Brian's apartment.
Favorite teammate?
Other than Matt Palmquist.
And I was gonna say that's a hard one, because I hung out with Matt all the time.
It's okay if it's Matt. We get it. It's cool. We played the longest
I would
together.
say, because the two guys that I hung out with, the two guys that I hung out with the most were Brian and Matt. And I hung out with them for 2 years nonstop. So I didn't spend any more time. If anybody else, my next guy would have been Mike Mancias, because I hung out with him for 4 years.
Yeah.
But he wasn't really my teammate. But
Yeah.
He doesn't count.
He doesn't count. I've seen Mike's jump shot. It's hilarious.
Yeah. I've seen his ball.
Shout out to Mike.
Shout out to Mike. I love it. Good one.
All right. Favorite subject when you were in school?
Weight training. Yeah, that was fun. I learned a lot.
All right. Favorite coach, whether it be assistant or head coach, whatever, because Lord knows we had a lot of them, right? So favorite coach.
Any level.
Any level.
I would say Man, at that level, I'm gonna keep it at the college level. We had some good ones, man. I ain't gonna lie, they were good.
Shout out to Paul Eubanks.
Oh, Eubanks. Now, you know what, man? Rest his soul, but I really admired Patrick Harrington.
Yeah.
I really did.
Coach
I really
Harrington wanted to hire you, right?
He did. He
Yeah.
did. He wanted to take me to Utah State or Southern Utah University. And, but I just admired, he was as hardworking and as loyal as an assistant coach that I could recall. He was tough, man. I really admired him. We had some really good conversations when I was in college. And he really would break things down for me and kind of get me to understand the game in a different way. Maybe not through my eyes, but through Coach Brooks's eyes. Like he would try to hey, man, let me tell you what he wants, is what he needs, what he sees out of you, is what you can be. You got, yeah.
How it always.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he give me that little shimmy, right? But he really took the time to kind of mold me and guide me and kind of educate
mentor
me.
you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I respected that, so I would have to say him.
Well, Lalo, thank you so much for joining the show. We got to wrap it up, but
Guys,
you definitely deserve all the flowers and accolades that you've gotten and that are coming your way, because you have left a legacy. The name Lalo Rios is forever cemented with the history of the program.
Yeah.
So,
And I want to add, Matt, before we kind of get off here, that he's continuing to inspire, and he's continuing to share his knowledge with talk about your basketball academy real quick, Lalo, just as we close.
Yeah.
What you're doing with those kids right now.
Yes, again, same thing, man. Trying to give back to the community, man, that gave to me.
What's it called?
It's called Three Ball Academy.
Three Ball Academy.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. Just a lot of it, the three more so because that's kind of what I was known for, right? But also because this is me and my son's kind of endeavor, right? Me and my two boys, right? This is my way of trying to spend more time with them and coach them and mentor them, kind of the way my dad did with me and stuff like that. And but also not just my boys, but the kids who join and trying to share the knowledge and give back, what's been given to me. And that's just
How did they get in touch with you? Give us the contact information.
Yeah, they can call me. I got a Facebook page as Three Ball Academy. They can just reach out to me. Message me on Messenger, whatever, Instagram, same thing. But like I said, it's just I got to give back, man, and I got to try to inspire. I got to try to motivate. I got to try to find again the next Lalo Rios or the next G Garza or the next Brian Molina out there, and try to help them get to the level that we got to, man. I mean, and experience what we got to experience, because you and I and all of us can attest to, man, like those 4 years in college were probably the greatest years of our lives, man, because we got to travel. I mean, we got to go to Hawaii. We got to go to the East Coast, the West Coast, everywhere. We went everywhere, man. It was like, and all of it was for free.
Yeah.
Getting our education paid for and traveling and playing basketball. And, I mean, for a kid from the Valley, that's huge, man. Most kids in the Valley just stay in the Valley all their lives.
Some of my best friends in my entire life I met through basketball and through you guys, at the university, right? And so,
that's what I'm trying to do, man. Is just trying to continue to motivate and inspire and teach and give back to kids. And it's my passion, man. Coaching kids is my passion, and I love it. And this also gives me the opportunity to spend time with my own two boys. And so that's what it's all about, man.
Well, we wish you luck. Yeah, we wish you luck with Dalai Lama, with Three Ball Academy, with Ed Couch Elsa. We know you're the head coach there, but we wish you continued success, my friend. And thank you for blessing us with being on the show.
Thank you guys for having me, man. I appreciate what you guys are doing, man.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Up, Lalo.
Definitely, man. Yeah, we'll definitely see you guys, man. Definitely. Have a good one.